Transmite en su canal de frecuencia modulada estereofónica multiplex La Voz Radio, desde New Haven, Connecticut, al mundo.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Caprice Méndez, and I am so happy to be here with you today with Juntos Podemos, Together We Can. Here we celebrate co-creators of a kinder and more just world. And today, I didn't know that I got to talk to a hero of mine, and I call heroes as well all of the wonderful humans that dedicate their lives to saving lives at Smillow Cancer Center. And we have Dr. WINER, who is the director of Smillow at Yale here in New Haven. Es un gran placer en dar la bienvenida al Dr. WINER, que es el director de uno de los centros más sofisticados y de alta calidad dentro de nuestra comunidad, lanzando una guerra contra el cáncer. Y tenemos el director del Smillow Centro contra el Cáncer, el Dr. WINER. Welcome, Dr. WINER.
Thank you for having me.
Y mi nombre es... thank you. What a pleasure again to have you here. Mi nombre es Caprice Taylor y estoy hablando con uno de mis héroes porque las personas que trabajan en Smillow salvaron mi vida en 2017. And so, again, I think off camera I shared with you what a pleasure to have you today. Because of your colleagues in Smillow, I'm alive today. Because of the team that you manage, I'm alive today. Just a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Vikram Reddy, who was my surgeon at Smillow. They had found a stage 3 tumor. I would have had less than 18 months to live had it not been for the highly committed individuals at Smillow to keep on top of and abreast of the latest research and technology to save lives, especially around cancer. I had read that in previous years, before my diagnosis, they would go ahead and begin the chemotherapy and radiation processes throughout the country for the type of cancer that I had. And the latest research showed that it actually creates a more aggressive form of that cancer, and I would have had less than 18 months to live. And so they just went in, surgically removed the tumor, have been carefully watching me first every 3 months, 6 months, then annually for a year. And every time I walk in and walk out, I just feel held and I feel loved. And I feel like a full person. And so if that was part of your vision in your directorship, Dr. WINER, and so it is. And so just a heartfelt thank you.
Thanks.
And so we have only about 45 minutes. I want to jump right into it. You're also a specialist in breast cancer and an oncologist at that. And I wanted to ask you, is it true that the deadliest and most aggressive form of breast cancer disproportionately affects Black and brown women?
So this is a slightly complicated question, but there are a number of types of breast cancer that seem to be more aggressive than others. One of them is what's called triple negative breast cancer, where the cancer is not sensitive to estrogen and where it's something called HER2 negative. So we can't use drugs that affect the HER2 protein. And these cancers are more common in Black women. They're more common in women who are Hispanic or Latinx. To what extent they're more common in women, for example, from Asia, from India, is a little bit less clear. But in the U.S., we know that particularly Black women, but also women who are Hispanic or Latinx, do develop more triple negative cancers.
I'll translate what you just shared.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Para no perder tiempo, le pregunté al doctor WINER, no solamente es el director del Centro contra Cáncer Smillow aquí, basado en New Haven con Yale, pero también es un oncólogo y especialista contra el cáncer del seno. Y le pregunté si es cierto de que lamentablemente a un nivel desproporcionado, que las mujeres latinas y negras son impactadas por el cáncer del seno más agresivo y más mortal. Y él dice, lamentablemente, los estudios enseñan que para acá en los Estados Unidos, más mujeres negras y latinas son afectadas con este tipo de cáncer que se llama cáncer negativo triple. Y lo que ocurre no tiene impacto tratamiento con estrogen, yo creo que eso es como se pronuncia, y también son negativos con urtro, una proteína que se llama urtro, y eso complica la manera en la cual pueden dar tratamiento contra este cáncer, que es bien agresivo. Y no se sabe muy bien si las mujeres latinas en los Estados Unidos y mujeres negras en los Estados Unidos tienen más o menos el mismo nivel, o más bajo o más alto que las mujeres en Asia o la India, pero sí, acá en el continente de los Estados Unidos, más mujeres latinas y negras fallecen con ese tipo de cáncer. And so, Dr. WINER, any latest research in regards to understanding the complexity of triple negative cancer and what the best treatments are for that?
Well, so before getting to that, if I can just make one point, which is that in the United States, Black women, whether they are Hispanic or not, have a higher risk of of dying from breast cancer than white women and Hispanic non-Black women. And while you could think that some of that might be related to the fact that they are more likely to develop these aggressive forms of breast cancer, I think most of us believe that the biggest problem is unequal access to care, unequal care in general. So one of the main areas that we want to focus on as a cancer center, and one of the main areas that we need to focus on as a country, is how we're going to get the care that that Black women receive to be the same as the care that white women and non-Black Hispanic women receive. And interestingly, Hispanic women who are not Black appear not to have a worse prognosis from breast cancer, and if anything, have a slightly lower risk of dying from breast cancer than white non-Hispanic women. But I think the bottom line is, in our great country with great cancer care, we have pockets of individuals who receive pretty terrible care. And we desperately need to fix that.
Thank you for that strong commitment on behalf of Smillow. And I do want to ask a little bit about how can women who are uninsured, and there are a variety of reasons as to why here in New Haven there are many uninsured women from lacking immigration status, not knowing how to navigate the system, or lacking income levels, or a job that offers health insurance, and not realizing that there are other ways to access care, especially around breast health. What are some of the ways in which Smillow is providing that support for low income women of color who are concerned about their breast health but haven't seen the doctor because they just don't have health insurance?
Yeah.
And before you answer that, I'll translate and I'll give you some time to think
Okay,
about
fine.
that. El doctor Weiner, yo le pregunté sobre qué tratamiento existe con el cáncer negativo triple, y él me dijo, antes de contestar esa pregunta, yo quisiera compartir algo muy importante, de que reconocemos en Smillow que uh, las mujeres latinas y negras están al alto riesgo de contraer cáncer mortal, pero es importante reconocer que las mujeres negras en sí tienen hasta más alto riesgo de mortalidad de este tipo de cualquier tipo de cáncer. Y cuando uno se refleja en la comunidad hispana latina, si tienen raíces africanas, también están en alto riesgo. Y las mujeres latinas blancas, es decir, ellas tienen menos riesgo que hasta las mujeres blancas que no son latinas. Entonces, las mujeres latinas que son blancas tienen mejor oportunidad de ser más saludables contra el cáncer que cualquier otro grupo blanco o negro. Y este problema que existe, el doctor Weiner dice, es falta de igualdad de acceso a salud médico, acceso a cuidado médico. Y eso es un problema que Smillow está comprometido en tener cambios en esta área. Quiere apoyar y cambiar las estadísticas para las mujeres negras con el cáncer. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, we are a safety net hospital, which means that we provide care essentially to everyone. People, when they come to see us who don't have health insurance, do need to make an application for that free care, but it's provided to everyone. Now, of course, whenever possible, we're going to try to get people the assistance from the federal government that they need if they're eligible for that. So people who are eligible for Medicare and Medicaid, we're going to try to make sure that people apply for the appropriate coverage, but we don't turn people away. And I think there's another issue, though, which is that we can have the care available to people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to receive it. And it's because there are many parts of our healthcare system that feel pretty unfriendly to a lot of people. So I will tell you that since I've been in New Haven over the last year, I've had to deal with some medical problems. I'm a sophisticated, educated doctor, and I still find it incredibly challenging managing my own medical care. Imagine if I'm not medically sophisticated, if I have 2 or 3 small children at home to take care of, if I don't have the financial resources to get to appointments and to pay for my medicines, then in those situations, it becomes ever so much more challenging. And so it's not just a matter of providing access to Smillow and access to places where you get care. It's also making sure that we help bring people in, we help make the place feel more comfortable. And then, very importantly, we help people get through a course of treatment. Because if you're a woman or a man who's raising small children and you're worried about putting food on the table and you're worried about your transportation costs, it's going to be hard to focus on your care. So we have to help people get through the whole cancer experience.
Thank you so much. I'm going to translate. El doctor Weiner dice que es bien
Sorry, it's so
importante.
long.
No, it was so powerful and important, every detail that you shared, and I will promise you I will do my best to translate and not skip a beat because it's such an important message. And coming from the director of Smillow, so the community's hearing it directly from the director of Smillow, which is amazing. El doctor Weiner, que es el director del Centro contra Cáncer aquí en Yale, que se llama Smillow, dice de que va más allá el problema de acceso a seguro médico. No solamente es si tienen o no tienen una manera de pagar, y es importante reconocer que el centro Smillow de Yale es parte de una red de seguridad de hospitales, es decir, que tienen una manera en la cual pueden proveer asistencia gratuita a la comunidad, asistencia médica, y también proveen ayuda para que las personas apliquen para Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare, si es que ellos tienen los requisitos necesarios para obtener eso. También los ayudan a navegar ese proceso. Pero lo primero que tienen que hacer al llegar al hospital, tienen que preguntar para la aplicación que se llama en inglés Free Care, asistencia gratuita, Free Care, y de ahí los ayudan a llenar esa aplicación sin importar. Voy a preguntar de nuevo si es que sin importar el estatus inmigratorio. Yo creo que sin importar. Dr. Weiner, just for clarity's sake, for the free care application, this is regardless of immigration status?
My understanding is that is exactly the case. I do want to make one other point, if I may now.
Sure.
And that point is the better our cancer treatment gets, the more people we're able to cure with our cancer treatment, the more people we're able to help live normal lives, the more tragic it is that not everyone gets access to the same care. When all our treatments aren't very good, if someone has access or they don't have access, sadly, they may do equally poorly. But when we have a multitude of curative therapies, we want to be able to provide them to everyone and not have these individuals who somehow can't access or get through the treatment.
Thank you so much. El doctor Weiner dice de que quisiera brindar otro punto muy clave, que es una gran tragedia cuando tenemos los mejores tratamientos contra cáncer. Estamos pudiendo salvar vidas que estaban arriesgadas por cáncer y salvar una gran cantidad de vidas, un porcentaje muy alto de vidas con el tratamiento, una multitud de terapias existen para la sanación contra cáncer en Smillow. Es una gran tragedia cuando por falta de poder acceder de alta calidad, es decir, gente que no llegan a recibir terapia contra cáncer, no porque no pueden accederlo, no es por falta de poder obtener seguro médico o una manera de pagarlo, pero es una tragedia por falta de sentirse bienvenidos a un sitio, por falta de no tener quien pueden cuidar a los niños. Si una familia tiene 2 o 3 hijos, o necesitan asistencia en transporte a las citas, o más decir, están preocupados por una multitud de cosas siendo un padre o madre soltero o soltera. Y este tipo de barreras es una gran tragedia que no acceden, no reciban el cuidado médico de alta calidad que existe aquí en Smillow, aquí en New Haven. Y Smillow quiere fijarse muy bien de que esas barreras no existan para las familias, a que se sientan bienvenidos cuando entran en la sala de recepción, cuando hablan con su doctor. Él dice, yo mismo soy un doctor y yo me considero sabio en poder navegar el sistema médico, y cuando me enfermé fue muy difícil para mí. Y no quisiera que personas pasen por eso, y que eso pararía el tratamiento necesario para salvar sus vidas. And so, Dr. WINER, what is Smillow doing with all of those real life barriers to accessing quality healthcare? So you named it, and you named the commitment of Smillow, and how is that playing out?
Yeah, so I will tell you that this is something that we have been committed to for a while, but we have sort of a new and renewed commitment to. So we're still in the, I would say, early to mid planning stages of how it is that we're going to do our very best to diminish these cancer care disparities, not just in New Haven, but across the state, because we have 14 different facilities across the state. But it will involve both doing research in terms of trying to understand the best ways of providing that help, but also, and I hope we are successful in this area, we are going to try very, very hard to raise funds from a combination of donors and various other private organizations to see if we can better support the women and men we take care of. I always default to saying women because I'm so used to being a breast cancer doctor. But in fact, we care equally about men and women.
El doctor dice de que cuando está hablando sobre el tema de cáncer, él muchas veces habla de mujeres nomás porque él provee asistencia médica sobre el asunto de cáncer contra el seno, pero también a nivel de igualdad le importa mucho también, y también la institución de Smillow, a los hombres también contra el cáncer. Y él dice de que sobre el tema de disparidad, en inglés se llama disparity, falta de igualdad y barreras que uno enfrenta, especialmente por situaciones socioeconómicas que impactan negativamente la salud de uno. Smillow quiere implementar un plan, y siempre han tenido el compromiso para enfrentar las barreras socioeconómicas de los pacientes, pero ahora quieren tener un plan más agresivo contra esas barreras, y están en el principio de formar ese plan. Apenas acaban de renovar ese compromiso contra las barreras del acceso médico, como el Dr. WINER acaba de nombrar. And so we're talking about addressing the socioeconomic related barriers that people face. And one of the questions that I had is, how has COVID-19 impacted related to cancer early detection and treatment? And I would say, is it fair to say that COVID-19 also showed up with these disparities around and how socioeconomics has affected healthcare overall and part of the COVID pandemic story? Is that at all related to what we're talking about now?
So I think the answer is unequivocally yes. I also want to make it clear, and I'll get back to the COVID question in a second. I want to make it clear that it's not just socioeconomic factors in terms of education and income, and that I think quite understandably, there has been a mistrust and a distrust of the medical profession on the part of people of color for many very good reasons, and we desperately need to win back that trust. One of the ways we're hoping to win back that trust is to have a more diverse workforce, but that still takes some time. In terms of COVID-19, I think there's only one good piece of the whole COVID-19 story, is that it's shown a very bright light on the huge impact of disparities, which apply to cancer as well as COVID-19. But COVID-19 has, if anything, reduced people's incomes, make those who are living to some extent very difficult lives already feel even more marginalized. And why don't I stop there and I'll get back to the cancer screenings in a second.
Great. El doctor Weiner dice que es bien importante reconocer de que las disparidades en la atención de la salud no solamente es por causas socioeconómicas, pero una falta muy grave de confianza que las personas negras tienen con los médicos. Y son por razones muy razonables y basado en la historia de cómo es que la comunidad médica se ha comportado con la comunidad negra. Y es importante ganar de vuelta esa confianza y que va más allá, de nuevo, del nivel de educación o ingreso de las familias. Y para alcanzar esa meta de aumentar los rasgos de confianza entre la comunidad negra y los doctores, hay que aumentar representación de esas comunidades en quiénes son los doctores, enfermeras, las personas que trabajan en los hospitales. Hay que aumentar diversidad. Y sí, la pandemia contra el virus de COVID-19 nos enseñó la importancia de tener ese nivel de relación positiva con la comunidad. Thank you, Dr. Weiner. And so, in regards to its impact on early detection and treatment, has that shifted anything?
Yeah, so of course, when you're dealing with a pandemic like COVID-19, cancer screenings seem not to be so very important. And there's no question that cancer screenings were delayed during COVID-19. And I think what is of even greater concern is that there were probably many people who had not screen detected cancer, but symptomatic cancer, people who had bowel difficulties, people who had breast lumps, people who had unexplained coughs, who just didn't come in for medical care. The result being is that in some studies, the suggestion is that cancers in the post-COVID-19 era were diagnosed at a later stage. So I'm worried about this. I think it's possible we still have not seen the full effect of this played out. And almost certainly this is yet another example of a healthcare problem that is going to affect people of color far more than white people.
That is a scary reality. Because early detection saves lives. That's one thing that I learned as a former patient.
Yeah.
Dr. Weiner acaba de decir una realidad asombrosa, que lamentablemente por la razón del virus, muchas personas tenían miedo de contraer el virus COVID-19. Obviamente era algo bien peligroso en el pasado cuando no teníamos las vacunas contra COVID, pero de ahí pospusieron acceder a asistencia médica, pospusieron los exámenes de detección contra cáncer. Por ejemplo, una persona poder haber tenido una tos inexplicable y nunca se va, o encontraron algo en su seno y no sabían qué era, unos bultos posiblemente, una variedad de diferentes síntomas y no le preguntaron a los doctores. Y sabemos muy bien con las investigaciones científicas que si uno detecta a etapa temprana cualquier tipo de cáncer, más probable uno puede sobrevivir y seguir sus vidas. Y como me ven, yo sobreviví con la atención médica apropiada en este momento, dando esta sesión en la radio. Tengo COVID el día 3 y porque me metí, me dieron la vacuna, el booster más recién. Es como un simple catarro, pero estoy en mi casa y estoy manteniendo la distancia social para no contagiar a nadie más. Y las personas con cáncer están en más alto riesgo de complicaciones de COVID también. Entonces, es bien importante vacunarse. Y yo soy una prueba hoy mismo del efecto positivo que tiene la ciencia y estoy viva y puedo trabajar aquí con la radio, hablar con ustedes y siendo el tercer día de COVID de mi persona. And so, Dr. Weiner, what you just said is so important that people go ahead and get a checkup immediately because COVID-19, my understanding as well, that cancer puts you at a higher risk in complications with COVID-19. And I have COVID today. It's my day 3 with COVID. It feels like a minor cold. And I'm able to converse here on the radio. And I got my booster in October with the newest variation of the booster against Omicron. And what a gift science is. And so I will personally say, like, I hope folks are listening. They go get that follow up with their doctor. They make sure that they have their booster. And if they get COVID, may it just be like a cold, which is what I have now. And I'm also social distancing, wanting to make sure that nobody else gets it. And so we have 10 more minutes, and I want to make sure that we get to share everything that you want with the community and want to welcome you back whenever you want. Will always be here, a vehicle of support in partnership with you in communicating with the community. And I did have a question in regards to science. The boosters exist because of science, medical science. And I also, due to the fact of my prior situation with cancer, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've seen that there's so many new strategies and new information. And I wanted to hear, how has the overall survival rate with COVID put to the side? How has the overall survival rate improved in the last decade regarding the different types of cancers?
So survival rates have clearly improved in a number of areas. Survival rates in breast cancer, in colon cancer, in lung cancer, in melanoma have all improved. But survival rates in all cancers have not improved. We still have certain very challenging cancers like pancreatic cancer and certain kinds of brain tumors. And we still have, although the absolute numbers are small, we still have way too many children who die of cancer. We know we cure the vast majority of children, but we don't cure everyone. And what's clear is, beyond the differences between different cancers, is, as I've already said, there are huge differences in survival based on race, ethnicity, income, education, health insurance status, sexual orientation, whether you live in a rural or urban area, and a whole range of other issues. And the way I think of it in the simplest terms is anything that makes you not part of a majority puts you at risk for some sort of cancer care disparity. And that's something that we just need to work hard. And while we're developing new drugs and new treatments, we also have to work on making sure that we eliminate those disparities.
Oh, Dr. WINER, may your vision become reality every day. And it's a practice, right? One can't check off, well, we got it covered. We already met our goal. And it's every day when we show up. How are we showing up?
It's very, very complicated, and fixing the issue related to disparities is going to require a multi-pronged approach, and it's going to require work and money and all sorts of different resources. But the truth is, we first have to identify the problem. We've done that. The second step is we have to start working on it, and working on it as hard as we can.
And so I'll translate the best I can. El doctor WINER dice de que él respondió a la pregunta que yo hice de que si las personas que han podido sobrevivir contra el cáncer, si ha mejorado el rendimiento en esta área en la última década, fuera del tiempo de la pandemia, y él dice de que sí ha aumentado en cierto tipo de cáncer el nivel de sobrevivencia, el éxito de la persona combatir y ganar contra el cáncer. Pero lamentablemente no es cierto con todos los casos de cáncer. Depende qué tipo de cáncer le tocó a uno. Por ejemplo, melanoma, cáncer de la piel, ha mejorado el nivel de sobrevivencia para las personas. Uno de que ha sido difícil el cáncer contra un tumor en el cerebro. No han podido superar tumores del cerebro en varios casos. Tasas de sobrevivencia también han sido difíciles para el cáncer de páncreas. Y lamentablemente el cáncer de niños, en los niños, no han podido superar cierto tipo de cáncer para los niños que estos tipos de cáncer todavía hay una alta tasa de fallecimiento. Por eso es bien importante detección temprana contra el cáncer. Es bien importante reconocer de nuevo que estas disparidades existen para las personas negras, que va más allá también del nivel de educación, el nivel de ingreso, el nivel de la orientación sexual también impacta el acceso a cuidado médico de alto nivel. Y también si uno vive en una área rural o una área como una ciudad como es New Haven, estos elementos impactan el acceso y la calidad de tratamiento. Y para Smillow se han dedicado a trabajar fuerte contra todo tipo de barreras. Lo primero, siempre hay que poder identificar el problema, y ya se identificó que va más allá de esos elementos que se han mencionado es también las relaciones entre paciente y doctor. Si uno se siente confortable entrando a sus clínicas, si uno puede manejar la situación, a poder dar seguimiento al tratamiento, a llegar a las varias citas. Y Smillow está comprometido para trabajar en estas áreas y están haciendo el trabajo. Yo mencioné de que es el tipo de trabajo que no se puede decir, ok, ya lo alcanzamos este día y ya podemos descansar. Parte de eso es cómo es que uno se compromete a llegar a enfrentar el día y cómo es que uno se comporta durante ese día. Y cada día uno puede decidir eso con sus pacientes también. Y el doctor dice de que están trabajando fuerte en eso. And so, Dr. Weiner, our time is short now. We have only about 2 minutes left. And I want to make sure our community gets to hear any last words, final words that you want to make sure that they're aware of. Dr. Weiner, ya nos va a terminar el tiempo. Tenemos menos de 2 minutos. ¿Y cuáles son sus palabras finales en este momento para la comunidad?
Well, I am happy to say that I understand most of your Spanish, not that I could speak any of it myself. But I was at Yale 40 years ago when I was in college. The Yale of 2022 is so different from the Yale of the late 1970s. And as a university, we care fervently about the people in the community. And I can just tell you from a cancer standpoint, the Yale Cancer Center and Smillow want to provide everything we can to the community in New Haven and around New Haven. And whatever it takes to make this work, we'll do it. And people shouldn't hesitate to write me, to call me, to contact me if there are any concerns. We really, we're there for you. It is so important.
Oh, you just made me smile. What a gift where you're like, contact me if you have insight as to how to make this better for all. And what a gift, Dr. Weiner. And so grateful for your time today. And I hope folks who are listening, please share this with your friends, with your family, with your loved one, with your community, to let them know that you do not have to suffer in silence. If you have a question about your health, Dr. Weiner is working hard to make it feel as comfortable of a process as possible, regardless of your background and regardless of where you've been and where you're going. Together, Smillow and Yale Cancer Center wants to together save your life. And so I just am so grateful. El doctor Weiner acaba de decir hace 40 años, él entró por la primera vez a Yale y quiere que la comunidad sepa de que ese Yale, esa institución, no es la misma de hace 40 años atrás. En 2022 es una institución, la Universidad de Yale contra el cáncer y Smillow están dedicados a trabajar con ustedes, a brindarles la mejor calidad de asistencia médica posible, especialmente en la área contra el cáncer, y están trabajando juntos con ustedes, con nosotros, para mejorar lo que ellos brindan a la comunidad. El doctor Weiner dice, por favor, se comuniquen conmigo, me llaman, me escriben un correo electrónico, me dicen cómo es que nosotros podemos mejorar, porque aquí estamos comprometidos para trabajar con ustedes, para ustedes. Y con eso me tengo que despedir. Hasta el próximo show. Y yo les digo también a nivel personal, yo he entrado, se han comportado conmigo como si fueran familia. Y siempre hasta me hacen sonreír. En momentos difíciles, primero con temor, entraba con ansiedad y de ahí ahora yo busco y me encanta saber que tengo una cita anual en las oficinas de Smillow. And so now we do have to say goodbye to folks, but I just have to give a personal testament where I was very nervous and full of stress and anxiety when I would go do my follow-up checkup for cancer to see if it came back or have we been able to beat it with the surgical procedure that I had. And all that anxiety and stress has gone away, and I'm actually annually always looking forward for my visit because they're so sweet and so kind, and I feel like I'm having a family visit. And I know one of the spaces I've been to have an awesome, beautiful looking aquarium with gorgeous looking fishes. So I see the touches, and my heart is just so grateful, and so is my body for the health that I have. And so, Dr. WINER, may you and your loved ones be well, and all this personal sacrifice you do for the lives of many. I wouldn't be here without your institution that you are guiding into the new phase beyond 2022. And I love to have witnessed your heart. And so thank you so much for you being you.
De nada, muchas gracias.
Hasta la próxima. Y que se cuiden mucho, hagan esa cita, averigüen cómo pueden obtener una aplicación para asistencia gratuita. No esperen, porque les va a salvar la vida. Detección temprano es muy importante. Hasta la próxima. Y mil gracias, William. Thank you so much, William, our co-producer.